single, ready to mingle.
Well, okay. So listen. So let me
It's really
clarify.
important to say,
Yeah.
ready
Yeah.
to mingle.
Okay. So anyways, so there's
219
Shh,
6
shh.
1. Hi, friends, and welcome to Just One More Cookie. We are so excited for you to join us today. Our topic today is multifaceted and very conversational, obviously, in nature, but we focus today on motives and finding your balance. And me and Abigail had so much fun recording this, so we hope that you have just as much fun listening to it and get insight and have feedback and things to share with us, because I know both of us have walked away and learned from each other as always. So thank you all for joining us and have fun with us on this next episode of Just One More Cookie. So I was on YouTube, and you know how it has like suggested videos on your main page. So I'm just like scrolling through, and the banner on this video on the thumbnail was like, calorie counting doesn't help. And definitely piques my interest. I feel like anytime something is like counterintuitive, I'm
Mhm.
immediately like interesting. So I clicked on it, and it was an interview with this guy, Jason Fung. That's his name. Has so many followers, and then like just looked at his videos, so many videos. So his main thing is that we have gone about the idea of losing weight wrong. That losing weight has everything to do with hormones and very little to do with calories in, calories out. So,
Mhm.
what he was saying was that, and I might butcher this, but essentially what he's saying is that when you are eating, your body has to make a determination of whether to store the food or burn the food. And he talked about how when you are consistently in a state where your insulin is in, he talks about insulin a lot, but he
Mhm.
talks about how when you're in a state where your insulin is always high, that your food naturally just goes into the store. Because if your insulin is too high, then it doesn't burn. So whatever you're eating, he was like, it doesn't matter how many calories are in, all of those calories are going to store. So whether you are eating 500 calories or 1500 calories, he was like, neither of those people are losing weight, because in both of those instances those calories are going as stored as
Mhm.
opposed to going as burned. So he's like very heavy into fasting, because his argument is that when you fast, you are naturally decreasing your insulin because your body isn't digesting anything. You're not putting anything into your mouth. So your insulin has already decreased. So he says that when you decrease your insulin and you go to eat, he was like, it will automatically go into burn, because with your insulin already being low, your body is already going to your stores to burn, because it's not utilizing any of your the other food that you've, yeah, it's not utilizing other food. I hope that makes sense. it's
Mhm.
it's going towards burning as opposed to going towards stored. And I found that to be significantly interesting, because I think, especially when it comes to women, because we have so many hormones, I am intrigued at the thought that what if, what if the inability to drop weight, even when you're doing all the right things, has more to do with your hormones than it has to essentially do with you eating too many calories or eating too few calories, which is what we normally focus on and where like our frustration comes in at.
I have a couple questions. And I know that you're fasting. I know that's legitimate because, as you know, what got me over my hurdle when I started, I think when I lost a bunch again, in 2020, I think, when I lost like 30 pounds. So that was, I started doing that when I did my intermittent fasting. So I was just eating between the hours of like 11:30, 12, and then eating dinner at 6. So I know there's benefits of it. And I didn't do any research. I just, somebody had mentioned it. I'm like, okay, I'll give this a try. So my first question is, and I've not watched this video yet. So did he specify how to do this? And so yeah, first answer that question for me, and then it's gonna segue. I have another question for you.
Well, because he talks so much about that hormones are specifically the main issue when it comes to both the ability or inability to lose weight, he does a lot of preaching about fasting because of fasting's ability to reset your hormones. So, like, one of the biggest things that people talk about when it comes to fasting is that the reason why fasting can be so beneficial is because it's of all of the benefits it does for your hormones.
But
So,
is he saying how to do it like you do? Because I've heard, of course there's a bunch of different ways to do it. You can do like full 24 hours. I was looking at when I was, first researching that. So, there's the one that I'm doing like between a window. There was one where like you would fast for one day and then eat and then one day again. See, and this kind of goes back to what we talked about last week. And this is where I find a lot of my frustration. I feel like it's this special formula, even when you're talking about hormones, because I totally agree. I know that there are hormone issues, and that is a huge factor of trying to lose weight, especially when you're a woman. But I feel like everybody just tells you, yeah, your hormones, they're an issue. You have
mhm.
to deal with your hormones. Yeah, fasting is good. Okay. Well, how do I know that? Because I've gotten tests done, like blood tests done for some of my hormones, and maybe not the right ones. I don't know. But I feel like, what is the formula? And I feel like that's nothing that anybody can tell you. And I feel like that's where a lot of the
Mhm.
frustration lies.
Yeah, I feel like this goes back to what we were talking about last week, which is like customizing the information to you. So,
Mhm.
and this is a larger conversation in general, with the idea of we'll never be out of information. Like, especially now, how available and instant information is, we'll never be like, I need more information, because it's almost like information overload at this point. So I feel like, especially when it comes to health, and maybe in so many other areas of our life, the the formula, I guess, would be to be a filter of information and realize that at face value, it is only information until you apply it. And then you figure out, is this relevant information or is this irrelevant? Is
And this is
this,
what is so frustrating
yeah.
because it's a giant guessing game.
Well, it's testing, right? And this is
Mhm.
actually something that I have learned to appreciate and to lean into more, is the idea that there is that the most beautiful part about life is that I am a unique creature, meaning that there's nobody else on the planet that has my exact DNA. The same with you. So
Mhm.
it's like, but at the same time, me and you are both very connected, right? Because we're both living the human experience. We're both women, we're both around the same age. So then it's like we're both very interconnected and very disconnected, right? Independent and dependent at the same time. So part of life that I feel like makes life fun is that this idea of there's no set teaching or formula that can sweep across everyone and be applied the exact same and be and is created to work for every single person on the planet, because we are so different. And I feel like the frustration comes in when we want that. Like,
Mhm.
we want it to work. We want to be able to see something that says guaranteed to work for every human being. And if you do it exactly like this, then you're going to get this exact result, which from the standpoint of being human and the idea of instant gratification, of course you want it to be that. But the other side is having to almost do experiments, which initially sounds terrible, right? Like doing
Mhm.
experiments on your own body and like discovering. But I will say this, and I'm interested to hear your feedback. The fact that I lost my first 75 pounds in a year, like it took actually less than a year. It took me less than a year to lose 75 pounds. I think I lost 50 pounds in 5 months. Like it came off very
That's
fast.
amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Who are you telling? And I'm so excited because I'm like, oh, this is how it works, like it's just going to come off. And it's like at the same time, like I was very disciplined and I did, worked out, definitely cut out the amount that I ate, but I was so overweight. Like I was almost 340 pounds. So to lose the first 50, I mean, that's just taking me out of the 300s.
Mhm.
So it's like once I hit the 75, then the last 25, I feel like took me a couple years because I felt like it went off slower. Once I hit that 100, it was like my entire body shut down. And
Mhm.
my body was like, no, no, we're not doing this. Um, and it's literally been almost a 12-year journey of because that stopped there. And I knew, and I still know that there was a better, healthier lifestyle for myself. I have been in mad pursuit in the past 12 years to figure out essentially what's wrong with me.
Mhm.
And that has led me down very dark paths. That
Mhm.
led me into 10 years of an eating disorder, and not to leave it on my, like feeling stuck or hitting a what do you call those? It's
A
not a
plateau?
roadblock. A plateau, yeah. So hitting a plateau was frustrating enough to make me feel panicky and anxious, and then including all the things happening in my personal life, it was like that thrust me into that area. Then it was like having to deal with this for so long, it has required me to go deep within
Mhm.
myself. I've learned more about myself in the last 10 years than I think I have at any other incremental point in my life. And a lot of that I can credit to the fact that I've had a lot of health challenges.
Mhm.
Even within the last 9 months, like I
Mhm.
I've been a basket case. I remember when I fought like tooth and nail to get so close to the 100-pound mark. Like I am like in hot pursuit. I think I got to like 207 in 2020. And it was like I started traveling in 2021. And when I came back to St. Pete, it's like the weight came back on, and I don't know where it was coming from. I don't know what was happening. I was having awful like stomach cramps, like I was getting really constipated, so I'm going to the urgent care, I'm going to the herbalist, I'm reading, I'm watching video, like I'm just like diving so deep into information and thinking maybe this, maybe that. They gave me medication when I went to urgent care. And the core of all of this is, and this is where I feel like the choice can be made between like being frustrated on one end or getting excited. And this is going to
Mhm.
sound stupid, but when you have difficulties with your health, the challenge is to go within, to learn more about your unique body, because
Mhm.
nobody's body is like yours. Though it looks, and we can take like a x-ray and it's going to have all the same bones, it's going to be structured similar. There's no body that's exact to yours. So then you're learning specific things about your body and not just your physical body, but your mental, emotional body that you might not have known had you not been put in such a position. So
Mhm.
part of it is like frustrating because it's like, just give me the answer. Just give me the blood
Yeah.
test that tells me what to do. But then the other side is this is kind of what keeps it fresh for me and a little bit fun because I feel like I'm always learning something new and also challenging because it's consistently requiring me to go back within myself and to figure out what is it that I need right now to be the healthiest version of myself.
I feel the exact opposite. Well, I shouldn't say the exact opposite, but so I agree with you. I do appreciate the fact that it was hard. And I know that this journey has taught me a lot, and it has taught me the skills to do that introspection and to figure out what was the core reason behind why I was turning to food, why I gained so much weight. And then it has been a very long time. So I have continued to hone those skills. But I feel at this point, I feel like I have learned those skills and I no longer need the weight loss journey to teach me those. I've already got those skills in my mental health tool belt. I no longer need this. So I feel like my frustration lies with, I feel like my body is gaslighting me sometimes because it's almost like, okay, you did this for however many years. It was successful. You lost all this weight. And then all of a sudden, it's like my body's telling me, "Okay, this is what we need in order for us to function, in order for us to be healthy, in order for us to get this extra weight off that we don't need and that is harmful to us. You're doing a good job. And here's the proof. We're going to spit out all of these fat calories. We're going to burn them for you, and then when you step on the scale, you're going to see it." And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Psych, we're not doing that anymore. I don't care what you do. Um, I'm not going to help you anymore." It's almost like I don't know. It sometimes it makes me feel like, am I going crazy? Because obviously, if what I was doing was giving me correct results, logically, I should continue to see those results. And so, again, while I appreciate the journey that this has brought me through and the skills that I have learned, I can see, and I'm sure there's other people that can relate, it becomes very frustrating because I don't, it's not like we talked about before. It's not like I'm asking for, I just want a pill to get me skinny. And I feel like that's a lot of what keeps me away from the doctor and a lot of things, a lot of times that I have gone and I feel like I get very dismissed because it's almost like, okay, well, you want to lose weight. All you want is a quick fix. You want me to tell you that there's something wrong with your thyroid or your hormones when this blood work that I did tells me there's not. Even though I'm coming and I'm telling you this empirical data says that something is wrong. There is something underlying that you need to fix. And they're saying, no, you just don't want to do any work. You're just lazy because you're overweight. So we're not going to help you. So in that instance, I feel like, I'm willing to do the work, but I get really frustrated when it's almost like you throw your hands up and think, okay, well, what is it? What else is it that I need to do? It's like I make these changes. I try this, that doesn't work. Then I try this, it works for a month or two. And then all of a sudden that doesn't work. It's so irritating because I feel like it's a constant war with me and my body. And there's that disconnect. And then trying to constantly say, okay, what is the mystery today? I have to be a private detective and get all of this data and put it together, and then it doesn't always make sense. And then I feel like I'm one of those detectives with the boards in their office with a bunch of string connected. It's like, what is this connection? How does this perpetrator fit in with this? How does this suspect come into the play with this crime? I feel like that's what I'm doing sometimes. And so I feel like you have a cheerier outlook on me on this than I do. But maybe it's just, maybe you're in a positive mood today and you're seeing the silver lining. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I lost 2 pounds this week, so that made me
Oh, that's
happy.
amazing. I gained
Yeah.
2 pounds, so
Yeah. I really don't like getting on the scale because similar to you, that's why I had to stop weighing myself
Mhm,
regularly. Like I literally probably weigh myself once a month at this point. And I when I weigh myself, I have a very similar thought process as you. Like this should
yes.
I should be getting the results. I used to do this and it worked, and now I'm trying it and it's not working. Or I'm trying something new because this
Mhm,
should work and it's not
right.
working. I mean, like there's so many things behind that and so many ways that you can look at that because once again, it goes back to you understanding where your body is right now, what it is doing, and also I feel like there's an element of just surrendering to the process and not feeling that numerical or um, visible results are the only indication that my body is healthy.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't know because the question that I have to ask you, and it's a question that I've asked you before, but what is what is the end goal for you and why is that your end goal?
I feel like it changes a lot because I feel like I have in my head, I feel like I have this number, and I feel like this number translates to a size of clothing. And and I feel like it's because I still have some clothes that are in a tote in the garage that I want to fit into. And some of them actually, to be honest with you, are not even in style anymore. Although some of them I have gotten rid of. But there is some things in there and I feel like those are almost aspirational. And I think I used to fit into this and I cannot anymore. Or one thing that really bothers me cuz I have like my thighs are really big and I feel like okay, I want to get to the point where, I mean, I can cross my legs now. 30 pounds ago, I could not. I want to get to the point where it's more comfortable because I've lost more weight in my thighs and I'm not there yet. So that frustrates me. So I don't know because I feel hard when I was at my lowest, I was probably 20 pounds lighter than I am now, 20 pounds less. But I remember this time it was almost okay. It's almost like you get to the point where you think, "Well, I can always lose one more." It's like never really knowing or never really seeing what the finish line was. And then, of course, at that time I was still going to the meetings and Weight Watchers, and you can't hit goal until you have a healthy BMI. I'm like, I will never get to the point where I have a healthy BMI. It's just I don't see it being a possibility, which with as much weight as I have, and, because I was so overweight, I know that there's, extra skin involved, so that is gonna obviously contribute to your weight, and I think that the BMI chart is just utter garbage anyways. It is completely ridiculous. It does not take into any account of body fat percentage. So really like a really fit, muscly man, because all it's doing is their height and their weight. If they are like 2% body fat, if they get on the scale and they just go by height and weight, they could be obese by their BMI. It's a stupid scale. But anyways, so to answer your question, I don't know what the end goal is. I feel like it's ever evolving. And a lot of times it is just it's kind of like almost like a week by week, month by month basis, and one thing that's really difficult about when you're trying to lose weight and when you're trying to get to a goal, especially if you have been overweight your entire life, I don't know if it's easy to say when enough is enough. And maybe that's a part of like the way that your brain functions when you have an eating disorder and when you suffer from that. I don't know if you can ever get to the point it's almost like constant you have to tell yourself, okay, every day is a challenge. Every day has the opportunity to be a success. Maybe maybe it's better to shift away from the goal, But see, I don't know, because then if you don't have a goal, then what are you shooting for? Again,
Yeah.
I feel like as I'm talking this out, I feel like my brain and my body are gaslighting me. Like they're trying to make me feel like I'm crazy.
Well, I feel like this question in and of itself is very difficult for like career obese people,
Right.
you know, because it's like, it's almost like this becomes a part of your identity. Like,
Mhm.
this is a part of my identity. The idea of like just living and not trying to lose weight, I don't know. Like, I knew that reality when I was younger. Even in high school, like, I didn't start trying to lose. When I started trying to lose weight is when I lost weight. Like, I'm
Right.
not one that was like put on diets and like tried and tried. Never. It didn't
Mhm.
care until I cared, and then I started. But it's been ever since my second year of college that I've been trying, and that's back in 2008.
Mhm.
Or no, not 2008, 2002, 2003.
Yeah.
Um, so this is like years and years of it being center focused. Like, it's not even that I was no, I'm committed. Like, I
Right.
am in a very, and at times very toxic committed relationship to losing weight and saying that it's about my health. But I feel like so much more of it is, so much more is attached to it. And I don't think that that's necessarily wrong, but I do think that it's something that I need to address more consistently, because sometimes the why can get lost. Because
Mhm.
the why for me, right? Like the idea of being under 200 pounds. Sometimes I really believe that the reason why I want to be under 200 pounds is because I still remember in middle school gym class, the female gym teacher had us all gather in the boys' locker room, everybody. And
This
it
is a
was,
despicable, disgusting story to hear this. It just infuriates
I
me.
haven't even gotten to the story.
But
We're
I know what's
gathering.
coming, and I'm getting worked up already.
But we were in, we're in the locker room, and we were doing check-ins. And this is when we had to do like the fitness test, run the mile, do the sit-ups,
Oh, I hated
the
the
pull-up.
stupid mile. Yeah, you had to
Yeah,
do that. I think you had to do it once a quarter.
yeah. And I dreaded it every time because I knew I
Mhm.
wasn't going to be able to run the mile. I was probably going to fart when I was doing my sit-ups because it took
There
so
was
much
always
effort.
one every single time.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then I was just,
luckily, I never did.
yeah, I was going to hang from the pull-up bar because I wasn't going to be able
Yep.
to pull up.
While
And then I was,
everyone is standing around staring at you like you're a
yeah,
spectacle.
yeah, and they
Yeah.
make you hang. Like,
Yes.
well, hang. And
Yeah.
you're like, "I can't do one." "Oh, well, you're just gonna have to hang. Can you hang
Yeah.
for 10 seconds?" And it's like, "Who cares? If
Yeah.
the grade is pull up, just give me a 0."
Yeah.
So, we had to, one at a time, get on the scale while she weighed us, yelled out our weight, and then her aide wrote down our weight. And I'm in middle school, and I believe I was in 7th grade,
Mhm.
and I weighed in at 200. I think it was like 202 or 203. And I was so embarrassed, like
Mhm.
dying inside, disgusted. And I remember the reactions from people in the room. I remember feeling like everyone was staring at me, and who knows, maybe they didn't even care. But that was like memorialized in my brain. So, so much of my weight loss journey is still very connected to a lot of traumatic moments in my childhood where what I initially wouldn't have viewed as an issue became an issue. So I don't know what that part looks like and how to divorce what I am pursuing from my past trauma or from this desire to fit into society when society so clearly has stated you don't belong, right? It even
Mhm.
goes back to like the first episode we did, like how ridiculous it is. like absolute, like this should mortify us as a society, that an individual could walk into any scenario, into a building, onto a beach, and feel like I have to hide, I don't belong here. At a
Yeah.
beach, we're
Mhm.
literally walking outdoors in the most, like, beaches are absolutely gorgeous. They're a place of rest and relaxation. And some people connect so much panic to going to the beach because they have to reveal parts of their body that society has called gross and disgusting, and associated that with your character and your
Mhm.
personality, and people judge you because of it. So one of my difficulties has been that, how do I divorce those two? Can I? And then how do I establish another why that is still true to myself but is not connected to this need to prove myself worthy,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Which I think is connected to a lot of it. Prove that I belong in this circle of very attractive, fit people. In order for me to belong, then I need to look a certain way. And if I don't, I feel silly. Like,
Mhm.
oh, these people are much better than me. Which is so crazy.
Mhm.
And most of them eat more than me, which
Yeah.
is also crazy.
Yeah,
But
or unhealthy,
or
eat
unhealthy.
junk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know if this problem is ever gonna be solved. I don't know if this has to do with society or if it's just human nature and it's ingrained in all of us to look at somebody and judge them based on how they look. And I think, to be fair to all of us humans, it's very limited data that we're getting, but a lot of times it's the only data that we're getting. So we're trying to size up a person, literally and figuratively, to figure out who they are and to figure out what makes that person tick or whatever. So it's so easy to just take a look at what you're seeing with your physical eyes and use that to judge somebody. And a part of it maybe we use it as a defense mechanism because obviously when you meet somebody, sometimes you're trying to size them up because you want to protect yourself. Like, is this person trustworthy? Are they going to harm me? Are they just a piece of trash human being that I don't even want in my world? So, and like I said, the external is the only data that we have until we actually dig deep. And then at that point, you've made yourself vulnerable to the person. So I don't know if we're ever going to be able to get away from that judgmental attitude to where all that matters is how you look. And I think a lot of it has to do, like we've talked about before, a lot of it has to do with our society, especially women. There is such a unrealistic expectation put on women, and we're seeing it every day. We're getting hammered with it. And obviously, we're not going to be able to solve a societal problem that big. So I guess it's something that we have to teach ourselves how to handle, how to take it in and then dismiss it, weigh it as, is this is this something that adds to my life? Is this something that takes away from my life? Is this something that I'm going to allow to define me? Is this something that I'm going to allow myself to try to measure up to? It's just I feel like it's a lot, and I don't know if there's an easy fix for it. Well, I
Yeah.
know there's not an easy fix for it, I should say.
Yeah, I think that it's something that definitely needs to be personally addressed with everyone, because I think when you get to the core of your why, I think then you'll understand the difficulty or the anxiety that is connected to your weight loss or your health journey. It doesn't have to be a weight loss journey, whatever that looks like for you. But if I think back to my why, or like to what's connected to it, like a huge part of it is just like based in aesthetics, what we have viewed as beauty, but at the same time, also knowing that how I feel energetically now as opposed to how I felt energetically at over 300 pounds. Yeah, it had a little bit to do with like society's reaction to me. But even at 330 pounds, I've always been confident. I don't want to say very
Mhm.
confident, but I've always been confident. I've always been outgoing and extroverted and loud and attention seeking. Even at 333 pounds, that wasn't the issue.
Mhm.
But I can say confidently that I like the way that I look now better than I like the way that I looked then. And I like the way that I feel about myself now. And I
Mhm.
don't necessarily think that that has to do with societal. So I feel like some of the why behind your goal or some of the reasons for continuing to pursue is if you know internally this is not my stopping point, that there's
Mhm.
something more for me and it's attached to my journey and it's attached to what my body or what intuitively I'm feeling, I know I want to continue pursuing. It's like I want to be there. I'm not
Mhm.
there yet because I still feel like I'm here. It's like I was talking to Casey about this, and I was specifically because he asked me a similar question, like, well, what's your goal? Like, what are you what are you looking to achieve? And I was like, at one point it was a number, but now
Mhm.
I don't necessarily care about the number. I said right now it's just based in like aesthetics, like with I can see my body. I can see where I'm going. And
Mhm.
it's not like and it's not unrealistic, right? Like I'm not seeing myself with a six pack and like a bunch of muscles and 0
Right.
or 2% body fat. I'm not it's not that. I
Mhm.
can see it. And it's interesting too because I'm still like there's still issues with my body. Like there's still things that go on with my diet and what I feed myself and finding out that I think I'm allergic to certain foods. So my body is essentially telling me, like, we're not done here. There's more to discover. There's more to learn. There's more to release. Because I also think that my weight is very much connected to like unresolved emotions as well, which
Mhm.
is a whole nother topic. But I looked at him and I was like, you know what I want? I was like, I want to be able to wear a pair of shorts and I want to tuck my shirt into the shorts. And I don't want to think about how my lower stomach looks in those shorts. I
You just
don't
get
want,
a really good pair of Spanx. That's all you gotta
and
do.
I don't want to wear Spanx. Oh, it's like when you wear Spanx, I feel like it's perfect. It looks
Mhm.
great.
Yeah,
Like
I'm a
you look
big fan.
great.
I'm
I
a big
feel
fan.
like I feel like because of the way that my hips are, it's like all of my hips come to my front. And
Mhm.
it's like instead of just like looking like a regular body, it's like I look narrower, but I also look like I have four fanny packs in front of me. And then I find it so uncomfortable. Like it's
Yeah.
usually riding down or riding up. And then when I sit down, it like cuts in my underwear line. So then I'm just like so uncomfortable. And then I don't drink water because I don't want to pee because the thought of like having to pull down. And I live in Florida.
Mhm.
Like to put on another layer of impossible.
Mhm.
I barely put on regular clothes. It's so hot here.
Yeah.
So I'm telling him this. And he looked at me and he said, "Is this a serious statement?" I said, "Yeah,
I don't think that's
100%."
an unrealistic goal.
He was like, "You don't feel like you can wear a pair of shorts and tuck them in and leave the house." I said, "I could."
Yeah.
But the entire day, I would be staring at myself in the side mirror and being like, "Oh
Yeah.
God, dear God, look at
He
that."
doesn't get it.
It
Men
doesn't
do
get it.
not get these things at
Doesn't get
all.
it. And then I was like,
No.
I don't want to be walking around here with camel toe. He was like, what's camel toe? And I was like, we're on different, it's different worlds, it's different priorities.
Yes.
It is like I those things matter. But then, like, how ridiculous he thought I was being really made me think.
Mhm.
Almost to the state of the things that I am believing that matter, or the goals that I'm trying to achieve. How relevant are they to my current situation, and how much of them are still steeped in the younger version of myself who believed that to be an acceptable female member of society who is desirable and who is valued and who will be attractive to the opposite sex has to look this way, and their body has to be shaped this way. And
Mhm.
unless it's these two things, then I'll just be on this side wearing
Mhm.
plus size clothing. Like, good God, walking into a plus size store, like, that was horrifying.
Mhm.
Or telling someone that I wore plus size clothes, even though they knew it. It's like in my head, I'm like, I don't want anyone to know.
Right.
So, how much is it still associated with that, as opposed to just being real, genuine health goals for me right now, based on somebody that I feel for myself is relatively comfortable being me,
Mhm.
just with a few pounds off my body would be great.
Yeah. I just thought of something and it kind of clicked in my brain a little bit. So I'm sure probably in a job interview, more than likely you've been asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Have you been asked that?
Yeah, it's the worst question ever.
It's a stupid question.
Yeah, I
I
don't see where I am
actually,
at after this interview. I don't
yeah,
know.
I actually, and and this was a long time ago. So in the job that I'm at currently for right now, my boss asked me in the interview, he asked me where I see myself in 5 years. And I told him, I said, I really hate that question. And I said, here's why. I feel like there are way too many unknowns that are going to come up within 5 years. I have no idea. I mean, look at when 2020, like the whole world blew up. You have no idea, and it's impossible to plan for 5 years. So I told him, I said, I don't focus on something like that ever. I focus on today or this week. So it's like, okay, what is it that I am doing in the role that I am doing right now, in the task that I need to accomplish, in the spot that I'm in currently in my life? How do I how do I live my life so that at the end of the day I can really say today was successful, or today I feel good about what I accomplished, or today I don't feel disgusting because I just completely lost control and ate stuff that I know that I shouldn't have eaten, or I ate to the point where I was full and I still kept eating. So maybe me personally, maybe it's time for me to shift that goal to where I'm focusing more on what's happening this week, what is happening today, and change that so that the goal is not to lose another 40 pounds. Because honestly, to get out of into a healthy BMI, I would have to lose 40 pounds. And 40 is a ridiculous amount of weight. And if I look at it, I don't know if I would ever get there, honestly. And maybe that's not the right
But
attitude
why
to
would you
have.
want to get there?
It sounds really exhausting,
The
honestly. It's
image of you 40 pounds lighter is frightening.
I mean, we never know. I've not seen myself 40 pounds lighter and since
That's
I was
true.
like in 4th grade, or who even knows? I don't know. So, um yeah, I mean, that's a lot. And honestly, there's a lot of things about my body. I shouldn't say a lot. There are certain things about my body right now that I do not like. And I feel like if I were to lose weight, I feel like there are things that I would like more about my body. But at the same time, I've learned to be okay with it, and I've learned to celebrate the things that I enjoy about it, and the things that, the clothes that I'm able to wear, that I look at and I think, okay, you look nice, you look put together. Um this is something that's flattering to your figure or whatever. So I feel like I am in a good place that way. But then at the same time, I feel like, okay, if I did lose more, I probably would feel more confident in certain outfits. Right. So then if I look at the goal and instead of saying, I need to be in a healthy BMI and I need to lose 40 pounds. Well, if I look at that, I obviously know that that is never going to happen. And that's the stupidest goal ever, which maybe this is the wrong attitude to have. Maybe this is why I won't ever get to, to a healthy BMI and lose 40 pounds. I don't know. But I feel like it's easier to focus on the present because really, honestly, that's all that you have. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and you can't control it. That's the thing. It's completely out of your hands. So why keep worrying about it?
Yeah.
There's no point.
Yeah, I feel like it all goes back to what are your motives? Like
Mhm.
what why? Why do you want to get healthy? Why do you want to keep pursuing a better version of yourself when it comes to your physical health? Because
Mhm.
I think that's important to ask yourself because then I
Well, and
feel
I
like
think I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I
no, go
think what
ahead.
you just said is really key is what you're wanting is a better version of yourself. I really like that because I feel like if that's your goal and it's not to be this certain size or to look this certain way, and it's just every day waking up and thinking, what can I do to make sure that I am the best version of myself that I can be right now? And what steps can I do to make sure that tomorrow I'll be able to bring more to the table or I'll be able to be a better version of myself tomorrow? I think that's a really good statement that you just made.
Yeah, because a lot of the things that are associated with like carrying so much extra weight has sometimes it does have a lot to do with some emotional baggage that you might be carrying around,
Right.
or depression, or lack of discipline, or that, just self hate. Like a lot
Mhm.
of times there's a lot associated with that, or you're grieving and you haven't addressed that. Like, and then also just when you carry a certain level of extra weight, you can start having like aches and pains, like just not feeling
Mhm.
good, not being able to move. So that that side of just operating like that and knowing, right at the core, you're knowing I don't essentially have to live this way, that there is something better and I can do something about it. But when your motives to do it aren't really associated with becoming a better version of yourself, and they might have something to do with other people, then I feel like that's when it does become very frustrating and it becomes like overwhelming instead of it just being more of a beautiful process. Now, don't get me wrong, like you've been on at this point thousands of phone calls of
Mhm.
me mad and crying and like I'm sick of it. I'm sick,
Mhm.
it's not worth it. And just frustrated. So it's not I'm like every morning I wake up and with like a smile on my face, like here we go
Mhm.
again and more to learn.
Yeah.
But I had this revelation that my why had changed a good amount when I was crying about my weight earlier this year when things had just gone haywire. And I'm just like so emotional. And Casey was trying to console me. And he was just like, well, what's going on? Like, you look great. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'm just crying, not just because of like the extra weight, but I just was having so many stomach issues and that was manifesting in weight. And at the same time, really struggling with depression. Like, I felt weighted down physically, emotionally, like all of it.
Mhm.
And he's just like sitting across from me telling me, like, I love your body. Like, there's nothing about your body that I don't love. I'm attracted to it. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you gain 20 pounds. I don't care if you lose 20 pounds. I love you despite, like, you're gorgeous to me.
Mhm.
Beautiful words. And he said all of those words, and it did not stop me from crying
Yeah.
because that's not my motive.
Right.
If my motive behind losing weight was just to get a man to love me and to say that I'm beautiful, check. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, well, let's order donuts." Then it would have
Yeah.
been a total, which I find interesting, right? Because sometimes you see people like so vigorously attack like their health journey and get so healthy, and it's like they look the healthiest and the happiest they've ever been, and then something in their life changes, like maybe they get married, maybe they find a significant other, and then it's like after that they go into an opposite direction. And sometimes I feel like that can indicate what a person's why is. Because
Mhm.
really that becomes when the why, the motives behind your health journey are anything outside of yourself, it's not sustainable. Because
Mhm.
once you get it, then you don't have the behaviors or the desire really even attached to the core of you. It's attached to someone or something else. That's why for me, I feel like that's an important question for me to always keep asking myself, because when it stops being about me and stops being about, what we just said, just becoming a better version of myself that I know is inside of me. I know
Mhm.
it. And it's not just what is physically there, it's what is going to happen to my entire being as I progress there. That it's not just about pounds drop, that it's everything else that's getting developed in the midst of it, which I think we forget. Like
Mhm.
everything that's been developed in you from the losing weight, gaining it, losing weight, gaining it. Like every single time I have seen you not just drop pounds, I've seen you develop into a different version of yourself every single
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
Because because a real health journey is a marathon, definitely not a sprint. And it teaches you more about yourself than you ever could have imagined if you allow it. So when it's a motive of, I just want to be accepted, or I want to I want to wear bodycon dresses so that I can go out to parties. And none of
Mhm.
these things are essentially wrong, but I'm saying if that's
Yeah.
like your main motive, it can be fleeting.
There was something that you said back a little bit ago that about when all the times that you've cried to me, which I've done the same to you and cried. But I feel like at the end of the conversation, it's almost like you kind of just shrug your shoulders, like, okay, well, what else am I gonna do? Am I gonna just, let it all go? And I mean, at this point, it's become such a habit and such a part of who we are that it's almost like you just sit there and cry and then get up and go about your life because it's a reality and it's part of your life. And I feel like that happens a lot with any issue in your life that is uncontrollable. It's almost like, and we've talked about this several times about just, things in your life that are just a fact. Um, like for example, so I am, of course, right now I'm single. And there are a lot of things that I love about being single. And there's a lot of things that I'm very content about for because
You're
overall,
single, ready to mingle.
well, okay. So listen, so let me
It's really
clarify.
important to say,
Yeah,
ready
yeah.
to mingle.
Okay. So anyways, so there's
219
Shh, shh.
61. I'm just kidding. Continue.
Anyways, so there's a lot that I like about my life, and overall, I feel pretty contented with my life. Is it perfect? No. Are there some things that I'd like to change? Yes. Are there some things I'd like to change that are beyond my control? Yes. But still at the same time, I've learned to see the beauty and the joy in the life that I have currently. But then at the same time, there are times when it becomes overwhelming because I think, okay, I'm just going to be alone forever. Sometimes I think, okay, well, whatever, I'll just deal with it. And then other times it's almost like it comes in a wave, like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I don't find somebody. Like, am I going to, is everyone going to die and I'm just going to be alone? Like, and everybody's already left. Aaron moved away, you moved away, Drea moved away. Like, what happens if something happens to mom? And then, Max is almost 13 years old. He's not going to live forever. So then I won't even have a dog. So then I'm going to be alone by myself. And then all these feelings keep coming and coming in waves. And it's almost like then you have a complete breakdown. And then after I cry, because there's a lot of things in that are beyond my control. Obviously, there are some things that are in my control that I can do, but there are a lot of factors that are beyond my control. So then, after I feel all of the waves of the emotions and the stress, I cry them out. And then afterwards, I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to do? I can't just stop living. I can't just sit in my house and then, just wait for the roof to fall in on me and wait for everyone to die and for me to, live alone. And then, I die and nobody knows. And then they end up smelling the decomposition of my body and the neighbors come. And so, obviously that's not an option. And I feel a lot of time that's the issues with weight. So it goes back to what we were talking about, how we're trying to figure out how can we solve this problem? What are the issues that are going on internally that I have no idea what is going on? Nobody has any answers. I don't have any answers. I try to fix it. I'm doing what is within my power to fix it, but there are things out of my control. And sometimes I just feel like it just comes in waves and it's piled on and piled on and piled on. And all of a sudden, all of that comes crashing in. You explode and say, I cannot handle this anymore, cry it all out. And then after you're done, you're like, well, what am I going to do now? It's not like I'm going to give up. I mean, this is part of my life. And I don't want to go back to that person that I was 75 or 70 pounds ago. I don't want to be that person. And I don't want these past, how many years has it been? 18 years, 17 years. I don't want to go back and all of that work that I've done. I don't want to throw that away. And so it's almost like you deal with the emotion, let it pass, and then just shrug it off and think this is my life. This is something that I have to deal with. And honestly, it's about a lot about gratitude, right? Because then you look at some of the things that other people are struggling with and then it puts it in perspective. I mean, there's a lot of people that are having a lot of health struggles. Some of them are beyond their control and they are living a healthy lifestyle and they are still suffering. There's other people that are living very unhealthy lifestyles, but I know that they have a lot going on in their personal lives that they've never dealt with, or they're dealing with past trauma or abuse. And I look at that and I think, my life is on a lot better place than some other people. So trying to put that in perspective.
One of the things that I think can feel overwhelming is the belief that when a certain we look at our life being lived with the image of what we're trying to achieve, and we see that as she is happier.
Mhm.
She is living her best life, and I just need to become her, because if I can become her, I'll stop feeling this way. Like
Right.
the weight loss, my body image, the body that I see in my head, along with all the other things that I'm learning and all the other areas that I want to improve, I see that version of myself, but it becomes unhealthy for me when I believe that is she's happier and that
Mhm.
it's going to get so much better when I am her. And I really learned this with getting into a relationship, right? Just like using your example. So there are that is a state, like wanting something like that in your life, but also knowing that you don't have control over it. You put yourself into situations where you can meet people, but beyond that, like, you can't really control it. But a
Mhm.
lot of times, the struggle and the panic and the anxiety of your present moment can be magnified when you start to see that version of yourself as she is happier, she is more respected, she's better than this
Mhm.
version. Like, this version, not too great. Like, she's a
Right.
loser right now. And I like the minute I can get her out of this state, like, she's going to be better. Or
Right.
I'm in this state right now. This version of myself seems so far away. This is frustrating. And instead of going there, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. Like, when I started putting on weight at the beginning of this year, I literally started panicking and believing that I was going to be Gilbert Grape's mother, who had to be cut out of her home because she was so big. Literally. And I'm like, and then I'm looking at Casey and I'm like, and he's like, you can gain 20 pounds and I'm still going to love you. And I was like, okay, like, but if I gain like 150 pounds and I had to be put in a wheelchair,
But
do you
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
okay,
And then that's
even
what
if
I'm thinking.
he
I'm like, do you think I'm just going to gain 20? My
yeah,
body knows what it feels like to be 300 pounds.
yeah.
So that's
I just
muscle
feel
memory.
like yeah, and even for him to say that, "Well, I just love you. I'll love you if you gain 20 pounds." Yes, but will you really love yourself? Not to say that you won't love yourself, but will you
No,
really
because he
respect the
won't.
person No, you. I mean,
But I
you
what I'm saying is that I told him, I said, if that were to occur and
Mhm.
it wasn't like, I don't know, like I'm not saying that gaining 20 pounds would be the end of the world, but I'm saying that the way that I would feel about myself and the reason why I had gained that 20 pounds and how I would be living at that state, I don't know that he would love that version of me because
That's a good
does that
point.
make sense?
Yes,
It's
absolutely,
like,
yes.
yeah, it's like the idea of, well, I would love you if you were a CEO and I would love you if you're homeless.
Mhm.
Well, it's not that I wouldn't love you if you're homeless, but what I'm saying is, how did you go from CEO to homeless? And as
Right,
a homeless person, are you do you have the same character? Are
right.
you operating as the same person? So when he said that to me, I thought, I'm not, which makes me go back to my why, right? This
Mhm.
isn't just to get you to love me or to look cuter in jeans, which, like that's fun, right? Like all
Yeah.
those things are like fun. And obviously it's not to get him to love me or anything like that. But it's for me, which is why any sort of like extra additives that come in, it's like it excites me, but it doesn't sway me from my goal because I see it and I know that that's a part of my personal development. I'm not pursuing it because society says, because of a number, because of anything exterior to me, because I know what behaviors I engage in when I want it to be exterior to me.
Mhm.
Because let's say I drop 20 pounds, but the only reason why I'm dropping 20 pounds is because Casey doesn't think I'm beautiful anymore. And now my
Right.
health journey becomes, well, I want to make him more attractive to me. Well, what's probably going to happen is I'm going to do very unhealthy. I'm probably going to lean right back into the eating disorder because my emotions are going to be all over the place because I'm doing it for him. And now I
Mhm.
feel unlovable. So now I got to
Right.
do this for him. And now what was meant to be, because I genuinely believe this, I really believe that health pursued in all areas of your life that is for you is one of the most beautiful journeys you can ever go on.
Mhm.
Like, so many people celebrate the spiritual journey and they put so much focus in that, and they value it and they advertise it and they cherish it, and as it should be for every human being on the planet, because that's a gift that you get to like explore who you are from a spiritual standpoint. But then they completely neglect the emotional journey and the physical journey and how
Right.
those three should essentially connect. If you are telling me, and this might sound controversial, but if you're telling me that you are on a spiritual pursuit and you are on this very spiritual journey, but your health is in the toilet, I take issue with that because
Mhm.
spirituality is all encompassing. And if you're
Mhm.
neglecting the physical side of you, you're neglecting the spiritual side of you. They're not different. They're
Mhm.
one and the same. They are all interconnected. To honor and value your spiritual body means to honor and value your physical body, which then once again goes back to, what are our motives?
Right.
What are the motives? Even for a spiritual journey, what are your motives? Because if your motives are about you, about genuinely developing you, then you would care about your spiritual body and your physical body at the
Mhm.
same level. It can't be like, I'm so spiritual, but I'm so overweight that I get winded when I walk up the stairs, or my knees are breaking down, or the doctor said that I'm going to have to go on dialysis. Like
Right.
that, those two should interconnect,
Yeah.
which once again goes back to this idea of, well, if you want to lose weight, you're just buying into societal vision and you're just this whole toxic body focus. No, I don't believe that. I
Mhm.
believe that it is just as important as a spiritual and emotional journey. I believe that physical health is just as important as mental health. It shouldn't be either or. It should be finding moderation and balance in that. But I don't have to give up my physical side because I'm enlightened on my spiritual side. That should
Mhm.
just heighten and realign that journey. It shouldn't make me neglect it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I am 100% on the same page, and I understand that, I mean, human beings, you're not separate. If you're to be a whole human being, you're created, you have a body, you have a spirit, you have a soul. And all of those, in order for you to be a completely healthy, whole person, you have to take care of all three of those aspects. So, yeah, is spirituality, people who seek to be spiritual and to I think that's a wonderful thing. I try to do that myself in my own life. But if you do that and you neglect your body, I agree. And if you're all about spirituality and you neglect your mental health, I believe you're doing yourself and the other people around you disservice. And the people that you love, you're doing a disservice. If that's all you're focused on, you're missing it. And same thing, if all that you're doing is focusing on your body and you're a size 0 and you have 2% body fat and everybody envies you when they look at you, but you have all kinds of emotional trauma and you're spiritually dry and empty, you're not a whole person. You're missing something. So I feel like in order for us to seek wholeness and to seek pure health, it's you cannot neglect any of those three aspects. You must address each of those. You must feed and nourish each of those so that they are all healthy. Otherwise, like I said, you're not whole. You're not content. You're not happy. You don't have joy. It's difficult for you to be grateful because there's issues there and there's a disconnect. So yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, and God, that's such a great point that they all are interconnected.
Mhm.
And I feel that we try to separate them,
Mhm.
and then when we separate them, we then try to excuse the fact that these areas are out of whack, but I'm focusing on this area. And a
Right.
lot of it is just like hyper focus on image, which
Mhm.
once again goes back to our motives. The motives for a pursuit in any of those areas, if those motives deal with anything besides focusing on the entirety of you and being at optimal health in all of those areas, it's like a car,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't matter how much air is in the other three tires. If one tire is flat, you are disabled. You
Mhm.
are off balance. But when you have balance with all of them, they complement each other, which
Mhm.
I have seen. Like we talked about earlier in the episode, the fact that my physical health stalled in such a way and left me doing like really unhealthy behaviors, well, those behaviors led me into therapy,
Mhm.
which then I'm stopping talking about food and now I'm starting to talk about my trauma. So then as I started to deal with my trauma, and I talked about this 2 episodes ago, as I started to deal with my trauma, my physical health started getting better. It's
Mhm.
like I stopped struggling with an eating disorder, not because I just learned how to stop binging, but because I started addressing the emotions that were causing me to binge, which
Mhm.
then made my spiritual journey even that more emphatic, because now I am connecting more with myself because I'm not the enemy anymore. I'm not the disgusting, useless person. Like, I'm connecting with myself and I'm connecting with God on such a deeper level, because that's essentially spirituality. So
Mhm.
it's like when you are incorporating all three of those, and maybe that's the answer. I don't even know.
Mhm.
Maybe making sure that your health journey isn't just about the physical, that your health journey is incorporating the spiritual, is incorporating the emotional, and then incorporating the physical. And when you put all three of those together, then your journey stops being about panic,
Mhm.
anxiety, anything outside of yourself, or the belief that when I become that version, everything that I feel right now or my life right now will be so different,
Mhm.
which
Yeah.
it's not. It's not.
Right.
When I lost 100 pounds, it just magnified what was already there. It didn't
Mhm.
like, I had more confidence. I was definitely happier at that, when I lost the 100 pounds, just for like health reasons and aerobic activity. And I just felt so much better in my body. But beyond that, like spiritually and emotionally, it got worse. But that was
Right.
because I didn't care about that. And not that I didn't care about it, but I wasn't really focusing on that at the time. Um, which is why my journey now has been so different, because now it's almost been the physical took a background and the other
Mhm.
two ended up being more magnified in my life, which then that's when I kind of started to lean into all three at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think even if I think in order for you to be successful, if you're working on any one of those specific areas, especially if there's a weak spot, because obviously, some people, it's easier for them to work on their physical health because they haven't struggled their entire life with health problems or with obesity or whatever. So that's an easier part for them to deal with. But yet at the same time, if they're really going to delve into their mental health because they know that that is definitely a pain point for them and that's something that they've never dealt with. I feel like if you're honest with yourself and you work on one area, it automatically bleeds over into another because even if you are, your physical health, your overall fit, but maybe you have some unhealthy eating habits, like maybe you're eating a lot of processed food that is not good for your body, or maybe you're starving yourself because you want to be at a certain weight. So I feel like it's just all natural. It's a natural progression that if you focus truly on one area, you cannot neglect the other areas because if you do, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're not actually addressing your health in that area. I feel really encouraged. I feel like when we started at the beginning, you were telling me that I needed to be happy for the journey and I needed to be so excited that every day I get to learn something new to do and I was not. So, I feel like this is great. This has been
Yeah.
very helpful. Hope that you got something from it. I hope everybody else got something from it. We love our community. It's so much easier to go through something if you're not going through it by yourself. If you have somebody with you who's holding your hand, who's cheering you on, and who's saying, I totally get it because I have been there. I am there. I understand. We can't wait to see you next time. We're so excited to figure out what it is that we're going to discover about ourselves next time on Just One More Cookie.